What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Loud Spot. I'm your host, Sebastian, with the Pantheon Podcast Network. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Marc Sheffler, and he got hopefully some stories to tell. Here we go.
Oh, no! Oh, boy! Ah, here it comes! The motherfucking Loud Spot!
Before we get the show started, I do want to remind everyone to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on all podcasting platforms. We have Kyler joining us, our co-host today, and then Mr. Marc Sheffler, who is a writer, producer, actor, and has done some other things, which we're going to talk about. So, Marc, all the way out in Southern California, Kyler's over there in Northern California. How you doing today, Marc?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, man. Fun. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. I know Kyler has at least. Oh, Kyler's cutting out a little bit. I want to play the clip from Last House on the Left.
Go right ahead.
And your character, Junior. And this is, I guess, you getting bullied to shoot yourself.
Yeah, this is towards the end of the movie.
Yep, towards the end of the movie. So here we go with this clip right now.
Beginning and the end of the movie.
What the hell are you doing? Oh, you want to kill me?
I'll do it.
Okay, well, let me help you.
I really will.
Now, I want you to hold the gun out just like that. See? You see that little notch in the back? That little bump in the front? I want you to kind of get him lined up. That's right.
No.
No, you're not shaking that much. I know you can aim the gun. Just get him lined up.
No.
Pull the trigger. Come on. Pull the trigger.
I've got to kill you, Krug.
You always were a loser. Junior. I want to talk to you. Now listen to Daddy. Come on. Now, I want you to take the gun. And I want you to turn around. And I want you to put it in your mouth. And I want you to blow your brains out. No, not at me. I want you to take the gun, and I want you to put it in your mouth. And I want you to blow your brains out. No! Blow your brains out! Blow your...
And there we go. That's scene. We're gonna. Good job. We're gonna take a little break, and then we'll be right back after this sponsored commercial or advertisement.
Time is everything, and convenience and quality matter the most. Now, you have an affordable, nationwide, online medical solution for over 50 services in which you can be treated by a board-certified doctor from the comfort of your home. For only $49.99, your doctor appointment is taken care of via telehealth. Quick and easy, Jiffy Doctor is here to serve you with excellence, with same-day appointments as well as discounted prescriptions. We treat services from sinus infections, common colds, anxiety, insomnia, birth control, dermatology, erectile dysfunction, STDs, and women and men's health treatments. Sign up today for $49.99 and have your prescriptions delivered to your home if you choose. Jiffy Doctor has served tens of thousands of happy patients, and we are happy to now serve you. JiffyDoctor.com, your new, convenient, and affordable medical solution. Stay home, stay safe, and avoid the wait. JiffyDoctor.com.
All right, we are back. Marc Sheffler is still here. Kyla was having some Wi-Fi issues, and so she has left, but I am going to talk with her later and hopefully get that fixed for future episodes. Okay, so we just watched the clip from Last House on the Left. My question to you is, as a comedian starting your career in maybe stand-up comedy or doing comedy, how do you land a part that is a very serious role?
Well, I'll just tell you exactly the way it happened. And I don't know that's how you land a part, but that's how I did it, or that's how it happened. So that's the thing about show business, man. You talk to 1,000 different people, you get 1,000 different stories. A lot of them have similarities, but the stories are different. So I was had come off of working for a comedian by the name of London Lee, who I had met in the Catskill Mountains when I was a stage manager there. I was 19. Now I was 20 in New York City. I worked with London for a year, left after a lot of club dates and 2 weeks at the Copacabana.
Okay.
And and I was his road manager, but part of his act as well. So I was on stage with him. So it was a brilliant experience. So then I went out on my own. I was doing little stand-up clubs, standing up in New York, just, nothing of any merit. And I hooked up with a manager by the name of Dick Towers, who worked for Lloyd Greenfield and Associates, and their two big clients at the time were Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck. So they were, the offices were in Rockefeller Center, and they were, pretty tapped in. So, Dick had me running around for auditions here, for commercials here, and a couple of things happened, I think more on the commercial side. And I walked into his office one day, and he said, "Hey, I have a movie audition for you." Hands me an address and said, "Ask for one of two guys, Wes or Sean, and tell them I sent you, and we'll see what happens." So I go down to Sean's office. I go in. I meet Sean and Wes, a tall, skinny, stringy-haired blonde kid, and Sean, a short, pudgy guy with a mustache. And they tell me about the movie. So, okay. And they hand me a script with some pages, and I looked and I read it, and I said, "Just tell me a little bit about the character." And they said, "He's a junkie." I said, "And?" I said, "Well, he's a junkie, and he's like the son of the main bad guy." And yeah, he said, "And?" And that's about it. And I said, "Okay." They gave me a scene to read, and the scene that I read for the audition was the junior dream thing, where he's dreaming and comes out of the dream and whatever. And I did it a couple of times. They said, "Thank you very much." I said, "Thanks for the time. Good luck." And left, went back to Dick's office. And by the time I had gotten back there, they'd already called and said, "Yep, that's the guy we want." So that's how I got the part. That's the exact sequence of events.
So you had no indication or no clue that you were going to get picked for the part. They just said, "Thank you." And then you walk out, and then you get the part.
Well,
Not even.
Okay. You go on enough auditions, you get a sense of certain things, right? Like you definitely get a sense, unless you're a complete idiot and you never have understood the concept of reading the room,
Right.
you know when people don't like you and when the vibe isn't there. And you do your best to not piss anyone off for the future and get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Right? You don't try to, once you sense that the horse is dead, you don't start kicking it and telling it to move because it ain't moving. So you develop that. And I didn't sense that. It was very cordial. It was fun. It was friendly. Wes was great. Sean was great. So I knew on a personal side that, there was okay. It was at the very least okay. And no, they didn't give me, other than say, good job or some kind of cursory pleasantry. I didn't get any indication that, while I was walking back to Dick's office, they were calling him. Do you have a computer you can work as we speak?
I do.
Okay. So type in quotes, "the once and future smash," end quote, and then hit enter.
The once and future smash. We got trailers and clips here. Is it with Jackie Kelly, Michael St. Michael's, Mark Patton?
Yes. I am in a new mockumentary called The Once and Future Smash that I'm going to just plug the crap out of now. Not so much because I'm in it. I'm plugging the crap out of the three people who are responsible for it. Neil Jones in Boston, who does a podcast, a horror film podcast, and then Michael Epstein and his wife and co-everything, Sophie Cacciola. I hope I pronounced her last name, Cacciola. what they've done is to put it in context, and all the reviewers, if you read reviews of this, 90% of the reviews mention this. They have done for horror films and horror film conventions what Spinal Tap did for rock bands and rock concerts, right? So it's a complete send up, and to anchor their mythology, this wonderful mythology that they've created, they created a whole genre of horror film called football porn, right? And horror football slasher stuff, right? Then they shot 60 minutes of a fake film claiming it was, and then created a whole mythology about it being lost footage. And then on top of that, put this wonderful documentary about two guys who claim to have been the original Smash Mouth, wanting to play the part again. I mean, it's just brilliant. And to anchor their reality, they went to several legitimate horror film icon people to do talking head interviews throughout the documentary that give it credibility. Like, I did one and said, oh yeah, Wes and Sean talked about Smash Mouth all the time. They were just, they just didn't know if Last House was ever going to like succeed against this. And, you know, I just ad-libbed a whole bunch of shit. And it's me and a bunch of real people, you know, from like Halloween and, you know, other movies that are well known. So when it comes out, I promise you a good time. It's just wonderful, you know.
Well, should I play the trailer here? It's about 1.5 minutes long.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Let's add it to the stream here. We'll stay on the stream as well. Let's do it like that.
I think I'm actually in the one trailer for like a few seconds.
Okay, well, we'll find out. We'll find out if we see you in here. How to push play. Here we go. I think this should be the correct one. If it's not, stop me or let me know while it's playing.
It doesn't matter. It deserves to be pressed. Yeah, that's Neil Jones without you.
In 1970, at the height of the football revenge film craze, Mikey Smash and William Mouth both portrayed the football cannibal Smash Mouth in the cult hit End Zone 2. The film's influence on a small number of horror legends was immeasurable. Some even say it was Andy Warhol's favorite movie. After a portion of the film was lost and the ownership rights were called into question, End Zone 2 simply disappeared. Now, 50 years later, Smash Blender Films is reviving the franchise.
We're doing a reboot sequel of the movie End Zone 2, and it's going to be called End Zone.
With the pending casting announcement at Mad Monster Party, rivals Mikey and William will each do anything to reclaim their iconic role. They are joined by their reluctant assistant, AJ.
Pick up that bag. I don't want those wheels to wear out.
Mikey, William, and AJ must battle clowns, law enforcement, and holographic technology to find out who will be crowned the once and future Smash. The once and future Smash.
There we go.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm not. That must be a trailer I'm not in, but I have seen myself in a couple of them. I'm telling you, I'm so glad I did this. You know, I did. Neil called me. I knew Neil because I had done his podcast, and he called me up and he said, you know, this is what we're doing. Please do this. And then I went and I met Michael and Sophia, and I said to myself, this is just going to be terrific. And so I am 1,000% behind this picture. These people are just terrific artists and had a vision and kept it through COVID. They kept their vision. You know, they said to stop and start and stop and start. And it's making a movie is like hard enough when you can do it continually. So they deserve everything that they should get from this, just because and it's beautiful. I mean, I watched it on a big screen at the premiere in LA at the Chinese, right, man, and it's just I think Sophia was a cinematographer, and she's wonderful, just amazing. Just what they did with such little resource, such small resources.
I'm happy that you brought that up, because normally on the podcast we do like to talk about things that are upcoming and new projects that people are working on. So I'm happy that you're able to plug that, and it's something new. And I was going to ask you, is there anything else that you're going to be working on or in the near future? And then we just played that.
I'm writing a book about my life and my career. I'm halfway through it. It's called Dumb Effing Luck. The story of me and my very successful mediocre career. So I'm halfway through that, and I'm back doing stand-up. Actually, I'm working March 1st on a show here near where I live. Just back, up on stage, because that's where I feel really comfortable.
You did some writing and producing as well.
Lots of that, yeah.
A lot of shows seem like in the early 90s, like Sister.
Late 70s, my first, all the 80s, and some up to the mid 2000s.
Did you get out of writing and producing, or you still dabble in it?
I still dabble in it. I still have a couple of things. I'm kind of at a point in my life where I'm comfortable, and shit's good. So I'm not hungry. So I tend to just do what I want. I have, I learned early on in my life that when you reach a point, if you reach a point in your life when you 100% own your own time, where you don't have to be anywhere you don't want to be unless you really want to be there, absent doctors and shit, where you got to go, right? And my wife and I hit that point a few years ago, and it's, we balanced what we have with how we like to live, and how long we think we're going to live, and what we have, and everything seemed to work out. So we live, we've given up 4 days of the week, in a sense, like regular people deal with the Mondays and the Tuesdays and the Wednesdays and the Thursdays. My wife and I have 3 days a week: yesterday, today, tomorrow. That's it. Yeah. That's all we fucking deal with. It's like yesterday, okay, I wasn't feeling well. I went to the doctor. He gave me some medicine. Today, I'm feeling much better. Tomorrow, who knows? But that's it, man. It's like yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That's the only 3 days we care about.
Hopefully I will get there to where I think my parents were that way too. But you gotta, when you're young, and I wouldn't say I'm super young anymore, but I'm 40. That's young enough still. I still have to work, I still have to put in the work before I can get there.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's true. But I'm 73, man. It's like that I'm on the other side of the creek.
A very, very, very lively and upbeat for 73. I really feel when I was a kid, people who were 40 seemed way older. Yeah. And now I'm 40, and I still feel like I watch these TV shows where they were 25. They look like they're 50. It's
dude. Let me tell you something. This is something that when I was a kid, I would have never heard from a 73-year-old man. And I'm going to tell you, and the truth is that my emotional age and my chronological age are now no longer in the same century. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Completely, I'm stuck back in 19 something, right? And my body is here in 2023.
Yeah. But do you ever meet people? You ever meet people that are your age that seem so much older than you at 73? Like they look like they were die already, and you're here.
Yeah.
It's a mental state also, though, isn't it?
Well, it's a lot of things. I lived a very unique life. So, I lived the kind of life that was in a lot of common areas, fundamentally stress-free, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've never done anything but show business since I started,
That seems stressful. That would seem stressful, though. To me, it would seem like it is. Maybe it's not.
Well, I had some stressful years on and off, right? When, things were down, but I started without stress, right? Like, I sold the first script I ever wrote. That's what moved me to California. Wow. And the day I landed in California to move here, to relocate, I had already played the Copacabana with London Lee. I knew people. I had sold the first script. I had a car. I had an apartment. I had William Morris as an agent, money in the bank. I don't know. It was all just there for me, right? It was just, I have some writer friends whose nickname for me is the Myth, because I sold the first script I ever wrote, and when I knew nothing, right? Like, it was just on a fucking luck. And so I've had years where things weren't good, but if on balance, looking back on everything, it's been pretty cool. I had three goals. When I dropped out of college in 1969, I was at LSU. I went to school with actually David Duke, one of big civil rights advocate, but for white people. So I dropped out of college then, and at 19, I had three life goals firmly in place. I wanted to smoke as much weed as possible.
Okay.
I was 19. I wanted to sleep with as many different women as possible, right?
Who doesn't?
And on the practical side, I wanted to make just enough money to afford the weed and the women.
Right.
So now I can tell you, I can tell you with 100% certainty, I look back on my life and I have in every category greatly exceeded my own expectations. Okay.
That's amazing.
So,
congratulations for doing that. A lot of people, and I really feel like it starts off young. I've known people and I've been managers of places and for, not in the show business industry, but you see people I feel like there's a lot of excuse makers out there that just, I can't do this, or woe is me for this. And I feel like that may continue on and then they wind up dying younger because they don't have this positive outlook on life and they think everything's against them. And you seem very positive to me. And I believe that if you put positivity out there, positive things happen back to you.
Listen, my father exposed me to the concept that fortune favors the bold, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I look back and so many things in my life took place because I said, oh, fuck it. Who cares? I don't give a shit. Right. And I just went ahead and did what I wanted to. I just went ahead and did what I thought was right. Right. Like I became a regular at the Comedy Store after only 3 Monday nights. Right. Three Monday nights. So when I moved to LA, William Morris were my agents. They said, what else do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do stand-up. Right. I was doing stand-up and I want to do that some more. So they called Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store. And because she didn't know who I was, nor should she, she said, well, I'll give him a Monday night, but I'll give him a time spot so he doesn't have to stand in line. I'll give him a definite time. So I went on Monday night, first night. First I went to the Comedy Store a couple of weeks before, and I saw Steve Bluestein and Tim Thomerson on the same show, and they were so freaking brilliant that I was going to quit that night. I said, "No, fuck this. I'm, that East Coast New York Catskill Mountain shit that I was going to do just wasn't going to fly there. It just wasn't going to work." So obviously I didn't quit. I went and wrote 5 new minutes, right? 5 new minutes of material. And I went on the first night, and it, first time I did it, it was fine. It was okay, very good by their standards for Monday night. But I had all that experience on stage, so it wasn't, but it was okay for me. So they invited me back. I did it. I fixed the material. I kind of took the week, and I went back the second time around the same time spot, and it was better for me. I got rid of some stuff that I knew wasn't going to work and whatever. So I worked on it again. They invited me back. Now, the difference was the third time I was there, Mitzi Shore, the owner of the club, the person who made people regulars, she was in her booth. She was there to showcase somebody else. So I get this cherry time spot, like 10:45. The 2 or 3 comedians on before me did great, right? So the audience was way up. I said to myself, all I have to do a really great set is not lose them. And I told myself that, right? So but remember, I had done like 150, 200 club dates in the Catskills and the Copacabana. So this wasn't new for me. This was new for mostly everybody else. It wasn't new for me. So they introduced me. I go on, and I squeeze every fucking joke out of that 5 minutes. There was like joke dust on the stage floor. There was nothing. It was dry. It was like gone. Fucking. So I walk off to huge applause. The audience is going nuts. They're screaming because I had a big joke at the end. And I see Mitzi Shore sitting in her booth. And I said to myself, fuck it. What do I have to lose? So I walked over to her. I said, hey, Mitzi. And she knew who I was because I had introduced myself, in the intervening 2 weeks. I said to her, I went like this with my hands. I said, Mitzi, really, seriously, does it have to get any better than this? And she just looked up at me and she said, all right, Mark, call in for spots. And that's how I became a regular. And that's why my name's on the wall of the Comedy Store for like 45 years or so.
Wow. What an interesting story you have. And people that just followed your, I guess, acting career, just a few things that you've done. They probably, unless they know who you are, may not even realize that you're a comedian, especially when you go to these horror conventions and people remember you. I think you mentioned going to some of these horror conventions earlier.
They're all familiar with my writing, my TV writing career.
Okay. They are. Okay.
Yeah. Mostly they are, not so much about the stand-up, right? But and where I was with Robin Williams and David Letterman and Jay Leno and all those guys, that some do, but nearly everybody talks about the TV shows I wrote. So,
what's your favorite? If you could pick a favorite thing to do in the entertainment industry, whether it's stand-up, writing, producing, or acting, stand-up.
Yeah, there's nothing like it, man. It's hard to explain. It's like I used to say doing stand-up for me is like the most fun I've ever had in my life with my clothes on.
Right.
But now at 73, it's kind of like the most fun I've ever had. No, it is. Here's what it is. Okay. Here's what it is. First of all, I say this without shame. I'm my own favorite subject. Okay.
Yeah.
So going out on stage and doing stand-up enables me to do that to talk about myself and just be me in a way that, is kind of acceptable, because it gets a little intense in a one-on-one situation when you do that. So the fact that there are all those people there I've talked to other comedians, and kind of like everybody thinks a lot of the same things. There's a lot of fun inside your head going on as a comedian when you've set up a really good joke and what the punchline is.
Yeah.
And in about 2 seconds, the entire audience is going to go, whoa, and you're going to do that to them. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then you get a tickle, man. Like I do that. I don't think that all the time, right? Sometimes I'm thinking about something else, but I'll tell you the story. You see that picture behind me?
Yeah.
See that?
Yep. Black and white.
Yeah. So that's me, a picture from my 10th birthday party.
Okay. Wow.
When I was in the run up to my 10th birthday party, I was raised by a single father, like an aluminum siding salesman guy, like a really slick Cadillac driving, pinky ring, diamond ring wearing guy.
Okay.
So silk mohair suits, custom made shit. So that was my dad, and he was an aluminum siding salesman. So he came to me before my 10th birthday, and he said, "Hey, look, you got your 10th birthday coming up. That's a big deal. 10, new decade. You know, you go into it a little boy, you come out a young man. I want to get you something special. No bullshit, gift this year. I'm going to get you. So you just tell me what you want." So I just blurted out. I said, "How about the Three Stooges?" And he said, "All right, let me look into it." So called a friend of his who was the booker at a nightclub in Pittsburgh called the Holiday House. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and the guy said, "Yeah, I know who their agent is in California." He said, "They're playing here in January." Well, my birthday's in September.
Okay. Oh yeah, mine too. Right on.
Yeah. But the Stooges were due there in January. So my father talked to their agent and said, "Yeah, they'll do a Saturday afternoon matinee party for him, private party, and this is what it would cost, and yada yada yada." Right.
Uh-huh.
So my dad came back to me like a week later, and he said, "Well, look, I got some Stooge info for you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Well, good news is I can get him, and I can throw you one hell of a 10th birthday party that you and your friends will never forget." And he's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, on the other hand, I can't get him for your birthday. So the party will have to be in January when they're at the Holiday House. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Deal. I'm in." So at the party, I had about 60 friends, right? And their family, and, at this nightclub. And in the afternoon, Stooges are up on stage doing their show. And in the middle of it, Mo stops the show and he looks out at the audience and he says, "Well, we're all here to celebrate Mark's birthday. Where's Mark?" So I'm at a table and I raise my hand. And he said, "Mark, your dad tells me that you're Pittsburgh's #1 Stooge fan." So I blurted out, "Yeah, and I know all your material."
Mm-hmm.
So then Mo looks at me and says, "Well, I'll be the judge of that. Come on up here." So my father, wise motherfucker that he was, leaned into me and said, "No time to explain this now, but get your ass up on that stage." And I went up on the stage and audience went crazy, my friends, right? So I'm on the stage, they hand me a microphone, and there I am on stage with the Three Stooges. And I'm doing their shtick, right? I'm like Mo, Larry the Cheese, Niagara Falls, and I'm taking on the curly role, right? And Mo is just like flabbergasted because I knew everything.
Yeah.
Because I watched them after school for years, for hours after school, right, on TV. So I knew everything. So in the middle of that, Mo stops. He puts his hand on my forehead and he says, "I dub you the 4th Stooge."
Well, right on. Made you
right?
Yeah.
Wait. So then he does that. That 60 people applaud like they were 60,000 people, right? And I felt for the first time in my life, this tidal wave of warmth and comfort came over me. That applause manifested in like this giant hug. And it felt good. And that, I isolate on this because I told you I'm writing a book, but that's the moment in my life that my path got set in stone. That's the moment when I said, "Yeah, I want more of this."
You knew what you wanted to do when you were young. That would change your life path because it's such a moment as a child. It had to been just very impactful.
It was wonderful and problematic simultaneously.
Okay.
Because it gave me my internal foreshadowing of my own future, right? Sometimes kind of leaked in to the present, and the two time frames were incompatible. Like, I was doing very poorly in algebra. I never actually passed it, but I was doing very poorly in the first time I took it. They sent me to the guidance counselor, and he asked me, why are you not, you're smart enough. Why? I said, because I'm never going to need it. He said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, and I said to him, one of these days I'll probably have accountants and business managers, and they'll handle all this stuff for me.
Yeah.
And he said, what does that even mean? Right. And in my adult life, I've had accountants and business managers.
Yeah. Well, you knew you were headed along, but I don't think algebra is very practical anyways. And really day-to-day life, business math, maybe accounting, maybe, but algebra, I don't think I ever have to figure out what the X factor
The
is.
average person doesn't need to do more than add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Everything else is a jerk off. Unless you're like going into the sciences, right? On a daily basis, who needs to do comprehensive, equations, right? Yeah. I got thrown out of algebra class one day before the Christmas break. This teacher, Mr. Henry, guy looked like two eggs. This guy was like two eggs that were glued together with a mustache, right, on it, right? So he writes this equation on the board, like x minus z plus p times q plus r, divided by w equals question mark, right? And he writes down, he returns to the class and he said, I'll give you 25 extra points toward your grade if you can tell me what's wrong with this equation. So people were like scrambling. They're doing shit on, but like these poor kids, like they're going like this, they're trying to work, they're looking, they're copying it down. I started laughing, and I raised my hand, and he looks at me, knowing I've never known. The only right thing I've ever said was, I have to go to the bathroom, right? So he said to me, Mr. Sheffler, you know what's wrong with this equation? I said, yes, I do. He said, okay, well, why don't you tell the class and me what's wrong with this equation? I said, no vowels. Fucking class erupts. He then looks at me and says, get out of my class.
Yeah.
And never come back. I never want to see you ever again. Get out of my class. And the biggest complaint about me was that I had the ability to take over the class at a moment, like at the drop of on my whim. Like I would just do something funny, and boom, because 38 kids laughed the way you just did.
Yeah, you know how to control an audience. I would think it's probably also important when you're doing stand-up, being able to control the audience, and looks like you had that power, or were able to understand how to do that at a young age.
I didn't realize it because I was doing it as a kid, but I got older when I started to perform a lot. I look at the audience like the audience is a really hot-looking girl at a bar, and I'm trying to go home with her tonight.
Good way of looking at it, yeah.
That's how I look at the audience. That's how I think of it.
Well, I hope that most people, when they hit the age of 73, act like you, have a mentality like you. Very positive, a good mindset. I would love to see your comedy sometime. I'm never in California. Every now and then, but even if I do go, I go to Northern California. And I don't think you're planning on doing any touring anytime soon, unless you are.
Well, I'm doing what I can. I'm writing. The last show I did for like a 55 and older community, right? And I wrote a bunch of material specific for that target, and it really scored. So I'm doing another older audience theater thing in La Quinta, like the show's at 6 o'clock, man. It's like the fucking early bird comedy show. Really, this is like all you can laugh at 6 o'clock, right? Right. And then, but it's all, the first show sold out. So I think they're adding a second show at 8:30, right? But I got to write that down. All you can laugh. Hang on one second. Wait, that's pretty funny. I just ad-libbed that.
Oh, I laughed. That's pretty good. Do you ever ad-lib on stage, even though you have your jokes written down? Is there ever, I guess maybe there's a heckler or just, you just.
I do. I don't get hecklers. Because I did once, and I reminded him that another syllable becomes elder abuse. So they,
right.
No, people don't, everybody's weird these days. Back when I started, hecklers were like a gauntlet, man. Everybody went through it. But now there's a sign up at the Comedy Store that if you heckle anybody there, they'll throw you out. Yeah, and I think it's all that woke stuff, which I'm totally in favor of on the positive side. But you know who Paul Mooney was, right?
No, I don't think so. Maybe if I seen him or heard him, I might.
Okay, Paul Mooney was a comedian who died a little over a year ago. He was Richard Pryor's main writer.
Oh, okay.
And Paul was very well known himself. And pity the heckler that tried to mess with him. Let's say I saw him verbally slice up many people at 12 o'clock midnight when people were getting too much alcohol in them and thought they could mess with him.
Mm-hmm.
So but they don't do people. They're not hecklers anymore. Everybody's very polite.
Well, that's a good thing, because sometimes people, you never know if someone would have the opportunity to be a really great comedian. They go on stage a first or second time, they get a heckler, they're not used to it, then they just never want to go back on stage again.
Now, let me tell you something. Listen to me for a second. That would never happen, and the reason is that if somebody was destined to be a really great comedian, that would be nothing. That may have hurt for a week or two, but they'd be right back to where none of that.
That's true.
They would just do it. Nobody I know who is a well-known comedy person, and I've through the years now come to know a lot of people. Nobody became that person because that's not who they really wanted to be. Right? That
makes sense. Yeah.
Everybody I know was driven. Everybody had some engine inside of them that was pushing them forward.
I think that makes sense, but also you never know if it could have hurt somebody. But yeah, if they're destined to be a comedian, it's just not everyone has that ego or that drive to go back and do it. But then maybe if they don't have that drive, they have no reason to be in the business anyways, and never would have got into it to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be hard to be a comedian. Mark, I do want to thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Let's plug that new movie again. What's it called?
The Once and Future Smash.
The Once and Future Smash. We watched the trailer to that earlier. Looking forward to it. That comes out It comes out this year, correct?
Yeah, I think it's in the festivals right now, and after it makes its festival run, then they'll make their distribution deal. I know they've been offered a couple of them. They just didn't think they were right, but we'll see. I don't know. That this is it's going to be a well-known movie. It's terrific. It's just terrific.
I want to follow some of your stand-up, and I want to know if you use that early bird special.
Oh yeah.
If you do, I'll say he made it up on the loud spot. Hey, Mark, do me a favor and stay right there till after the outro song plays, please. I do want to thank Pantheon Podcast. I want to thank my producer, Sam. And I want to thank all of our listeners. Mark, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Personality. That's all the time we got. Mark, please stay right there. Peace out, rock on, and much love.
This is the Loud Spot outro by Nothing Short of Tragic. Is this all talk with no action? No. Is this my thoughts with distraction? No. Is this what I bought that's in fashion? Or is this the Loud Spot with Sebastian? Yes. Does Nothing Short of Tragic have his back again? Yes. Does everything that's good really have to end? Yes. A pimp host has to pimp show, so to get more episodes, make an order, this is over.